Welcome back, everyone, to our Let's Play series of TransRoad USA. And right off the top, I want to apologize for my voice. I am very much under the weather. I have been chugging medicine every 4 hours for about the last day and a half, and my voice comes and goes, and mostly it goes. So hopefully it'll stay with us long enough for this video, another 30 minutes or so, and at least we'll cross our fingers that it holds on. And I'm really excited about this particular video because in the first 3 videos, what I've tried to do is focus on one, maybe 2 things if there's enough time in each video, but I try to keep it simple and straightforward so that we don't try to combine a whole lot in one video and really get things too convoluted. In the last video, I focused on maintenance and even forced the truck maintenance on it a little bit sooner than it actually needed it. We had plenty of more miles before we actually had to do maintenance, but I went ahead and did it because I wanted to show you guys how it worked, even though, again, it wasn't the most efficient way of doing it. Well, in this video, what I really want to get to is a couple of things. First and foremost, I've been talking about in the last couple of videos how, I really want to expand, and I've been talking about how, I wanted to get a hub either in Boston or down here in DC, things like that, buying another hub, getting more trucks, all that sort of thing. And we're definitely going to do those things. But what I also have to keep in mind is I have to temper my expectations a little bit because I have to remember that we're playing in career mode. And in career mode, unlike the free mode, there are objectives that they want you to do. So we're going to have to take a look at some of those and actually do some of those. All right, so let's take a look at what our quests are. So they want us to unlock the furniture factory in Augusta, here, back up here at our home base, and then launch one marketing campaign. Well, the marketing campaign is not necessarily a bad thing, but that's going to require us to do some things before we can get to that point. And one of those things we're going to have to do is upgrade our home base. So really, they're going to force me, because we're in career mode, they're going to force me to do some other things before I really want to, which is going to really force us to hold off on our expansion plans into Boston or DC and that kind of thing. We're going to have to do some other things first, but that's okay. We'll just go about this a different way. Ultimately, we'll get there. We'll get to the expansions and more trucks, and we'll have a whole lot going on to the point that we'll probably wish that we had some mods to help us out with some automation at one point very soon, I'm sure, particularly when we get beyond 4 trucks. But what I really want to focus on today, beyond the look at our quest line that we're going to get into, is really making more money in the same amount of time. Okay, so far we've been doing everything very simplistically. Okay, and let's go ahead and start out by showing you the contracts we've got going. We have 2 schedules, one for each truck right now. And what we've been doing is, for example, in our schedule number 1, we have been taking supplies from Boston to Chicago. So we're going from Boston over here to Chicago, which is all perfectly fine. The problem with that is we're making money from Boston to Chicago, but we're not making any money on the way back from Chicago to Boston. All right, and that's where these other 2 slots in our schedule come in. Okay, and we're going to start trying to take advantage of these. Now, I am not going to get the spreadsheet and the calculators out and try to figure out the absolute maximum, most efficient way of doing this. We're doing all of this. This Let's Play is to learn and to have fun. So I'm not going to get into the minutia here. If you guys want to do that, and admittedly, I would have done that also in the past. I would have put this game on pause for as long as I needed to and calculated it out. But I'm not going to do that. That's not what we're here for. We're here to have some fun and learn about a game and have fun playing it. So how would this work? Well, right now, first and foremost, I'll tell you that it's much easier if you set these up all at one time. Okay, if you start out with a clean slate and pick the 2 or 3 contracts you're going to do all at once. Okay, but let's look at this and see how it would work. We've set up our first contract from Boston to Chicago. Now, what we would ideally be looking for is a contract from Chicago back to Boston with the same number of trips, okay, just to keep things simple. So we got a supply contract of 4 trips. Okay, so ideally we would be looking for a supply contract or any type of contract really in Chicago that uses the same trailer from Chicago going back to Boston for 4 trips. That would make things work out perfectly. But let's say that you don't have that available. Then you say, okay, well, maybe I can get a contract going from Chicago to Detroit. And then I can look for a contract going from Detroit to Boston. So here's how that would work out if you had to work it that way. So contract number one goes from Boston to Chicago. Then in the second slot, ideally, you'd like to have Chicago back to Boston for the same number of trips, so everything works out perfectly. But in the real world, it's probably not going to work out like that all the time. So then you say, okay, I don't have that. So let's see if there's anything from Chicago to Detroit or even Chicago to Pittsburgh. Okay, then because these are along the way. Now you could, if you wanted to, try to stretch this out and maybe go to some other places, but then you get into some timing issues. And one thing we don't want to do is be in fear of losing our reputation and losing money by having contracts canceled and that kind of thing. We don't want that. So we're going to keep this simple. So then you might say, okay, well, we've got 3 slots here. We know what the first one is. Then we're going to look for a contract going from Chicago to Detroit and then from Detroit to Boston on the third contract. And that would work out well. And a similar type thing for Pittsburgh to Chicago. So schedule number 2 is delivering supplies from Pittsburgh to Chicago. So ideally, what we'd like to have on a 4-tripper is we'd like to have Chicago back to Pittsburgh on 4 trips. Or same thing here. If we can't have that, then maybe we can get from Chicago to Detroit and then from Detroit to Pittsburgh. And that would give us a full slate on a schedule. So that's where things start to get a little complicated. And I'll admit, it took me a little bit in the game to figure out how these schedules worked and to figure out how I could make this work, because since day one, when I started playing this game, the first 5 minutes of this game, I was wondering why I can't get this truck to stop once he's made the delivery so that I can find another job back to, home base or wherever we're starting from. But now I've finally figured out how to make that happen. Now, the tricky part here is going to be the timing of all of it. And the reason the timing is going to be such a crucial issue is because we're already into some contracts and we've already got trucks on the road going, back and forth. So we're going to have to figure out how we can get this to work, if we can get it to work while we're still in the middle of contracts. I'm sure we can, but ultimately the best case scenario is to start with a clean slate on a schedule once you've just gotten finished fulfilling a contract, and then start from there. So that's what we're going to do to get things started, because we really need to start making some money. All of these things we need to do are going to require us to make some money, and then we'll eventually get back up to the quest and start worrying about different things related to it. But first and foremost, let's go ahead and take a look and see how we might be able to make this happen. All right, we see that we've got, again, Boston to Chicago, and this particular truck is right here just outside of Boston. Now, for right now, I don't know if he's going into Boston or if he's just leaving Boston. But for our purposes, it really doesn't matter, because either way, we know that Boston is where he is going to pick up the load to be delivered to Chicago. So I'm not going to set up anything just yet for him. And the reason is we're coming to the schedule number 2, and I look down here and I see that Pittsburgh to Chicago, he's delivering from Pittsburgh to Chicago. Well, he is in Chicago right now. So we might have a shot at finding a contract that he can deliver from Chicago back to Pittsburgh. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But let's zoom in a little bit here. And this is where I really wish I could do a little bit better job in the game of zooming in and out. It just takes a little bit too long to get where I want to go. All right, so this guy is here. So okay, so he should have the ability, if we find one, he should be able to turn back off and get back in here. Yeah, that should be no problem. At least I would think so. All right, so let's give it a shot. So let's go ahead and pull up some jobs in Chicago. And let's see if there's anything going back to Pittsburgh. All right, here we go. There's mail 3 trips. That one's not the best option because we're 3 out of 4 trips right now. So I really don't want to make this thing any worse I would prefer to have a single trip, and that way we just keep things clean. And whenever we get rid of one contract, we get rid of them all and just start fresh at some point. So I like this one. We're going to make $12.57 per trip and then a little bit of additional completion bonus. So that's okay. In the future, yeah, I want to stick with ones that have more trips. The more trips, the better, because that's less hands-on time we have to spend. Okay, so now we're going to drop this one in there. And at this point, I just have to hope that he hasn't gone too far out of Chicago that he can't turn around. If he has, then my hope has got to be that he can get, as we scroll back out, that he can get to Pittsburgh, back to Chicago to pick up the load and deliver it back before this contract gets us in too deep past its completion date and we get into trouble with our reputation and the cancellation. All right, so let's go ahead and click yes on that. All right, and then we're going to keep an eye on that one. And then also, we know we've got a trailer coming on schedule 1 from Boston over to Chicago. So we're going to keep an eye on that one. And as he gets closer, we'll look at some more jobs for him. But first and foremost, I want to see if he turns. He did not. Okay, so we missed our opportunity there. For whatever reason, this guy would not turn back into Chicago and pick up that load. I'm not sure why. That maybe there was something that I didn't do to make that happen. But either way, he is on his way. All right, let's go ahead and speed things up a little bit more. And we're going to keep an eye on our trailer that's coming down towards Chicago. All right, so he's in Pittsburgh. He's headed back out. Okay, we're going to have 2 guys. All right, we're getting closer and closer to Chicago. So let's go back to schedule number 1. Remember, Boston, Chicago. Here he is on his way to Chicago. So now we're going to see if we can't pick up. He's got 2 more trips left. So perfect case scenario for us would realistically be a 2-tripper from Chicago to Boston. Let's see if we can find just that. Okay, no, there's nothing going to Boston at all. All right, let's look and see about Detroit since it's on the way. We've got 2 going to Detroit, a 3-tripper and a 2-tripper. Okay, both of these are for a single truck. And again, for right now, we're not going to worry too much about the money. We'll deal with that a lot more in the future once we get a clean slate. So I like this one. This is for 2 trips, again, to sort of match up with this one. So let's go ahead and drag this one on. Okay, and hopefully this one will take. Hopefully we do better with this one in the timing than we did in the last one. Okay, let's go ahead and speed things up a little bit. And what we're going to be looking for here is, you notice it's listed as 1 truck and no trucks. We want the 1 truck to move over to this one as soon as he drops off that load in Chicago. That will tell us that things are working the way we want them to. All right, so first things first, he's got to drop off. There you can see the $6,000 that we pick up there. All right, oh, and before we even get to that, we've got a contract is fulfilled on schedule number 2. And now you notice that that was our original contract. Okay, so now on schedule number 2, we have the contract that we just signed that we intended for him to take the last time through, but did not. So at this point, I'm not going to pick up another contract. I'm going to let this one play itself out. And we're going to see if we can start with a fresh slate once he gets back to Pittsburgh. All right, so we're going to swap back over to schedule 1. And let's see. Nope, there he went. He swaps over to our second contract. And you can see he's going over to another part of the city where he's going to load up. And now we're headed back to Boston. Or excuse me, we're going to Detroit this time. Then once we get to Detroit, then we have a choice. All right, do we pick up a third one and see if we can get from Detroit to Boston? Well, let's go ahead and do that. Let's go to Detroit and see if there's anything headed to Boston. And there is not. Okay, there's absolutely nothing going to Boston. I don't want to get things, again, too messy and get to messing with Pittsburgh and that kind of thing. We're not going to do that. We're going to keep things pretty simple here. All right, so we're just going to let this play out. He's going to go, we're going to get paid from Chicago to Detroit, but unfortunately not from Detroit to Boston. We'll have to deal with that as time goes on. All right, so let's go ahead and switch back over to 2 because I know this contract is just about to be over. All right, and here he comes. And there we go. So now that contract is done. You can see there's our clean slate. That's what I want. All right, so now what do we want to do? All right, let's start. We're already in Pittsburgh, and I'm going to try to make sure that this stays on pause. If it doesn't stay on pause, then our guy is going to head back toward home base, and that's going to mess everything up. So let's see what gets us the most money. Right now, let's see, this one, 1,248 plus 600. That is a 2-tripper to Chicago. That's not a whole lot per. And let's see, surely we can find something better than that. Okay, 1,400, not bad. Short trip to Detroit, not paying a whole lot. There's a 5-tripper going to Detroit, which is, again, only a little bit over 1,000, but it does give us 4,800 for a completion bonus. That is very nice. So that helps out for sure on the amount of money that we can make. We've also got a 3-tripper to Indy. And let's see, we've got New York. Still nothing, it's really huge there. Okay, nothing really is talking to me there. The 1,400, I think, was about the most we saw. Yeah, that 1,400. All right, so now what we're going to do is, now, granted, what I could do now is go to Chicago and see if I can find the other side of that. And realistically, that's exactly what we want to do. But I can tell you, this is a game and we're playing this for fun. So I'm not going to waste a whole lot of time on that. Hopefully we can find it, but if we can't, then we can't. We'll take what we can get and just understand that the principle is really what we're after, and we're trying to nail that down. All right, so remember, we're trying to go Chicago to Pittsburgh, and I see 3 trips down here. Okay, we have 4 trips that we're looking to match up, so that immediately makes me go to this one. And okay, so about just under 1,500 per trip plus our completion bonus. It is for a single truck. Okay, I like it. I like it. Let's do this one. That'll match up 4 trips to 4 trips, and the money's even pretty close. All right, let's go ahead and confirm that. Yes, please. And stop, please stop. I hate it whenever it does that. It wants to start me out, and unfortunately, sometimes what that means is if I'm not careful, then our truck that's already in Pittsburgh, which is making this all possible, will have gotten back on the interstate and headed who knows where. And that will make it very hard for us and take a lot of time for him to loop all the way back and make us late on our contracts. All right, so we've got contract or schedule number 2 is off and running. So he is loading up right now, and you can see right now, there he goes. He's getting loaded up and he's on the road. Now let's head over and see what's happening for number 1 while we keep a close eye on what's happening with schedule number 2. Okay, you can see he swaps over. There's our truck. He was on the first contract. Now he's on the second contract. All right, we're getting very close to being done with these as well. You can see this one is, yep, that one's done there. So now he is going to go from Chicago to Detroit. Let's go ahead and let that one play out, and then we'll start fresh from there. There we go. You can see we've moved the truck back over to the first contract. Now he drops off his second trip, and now we're done there. All right, so we had a little bit of a delay there. That's the sort of the downside of going too far out of your way. And plus, who knows, we might have been running a little bit behind schedule anyway. All right, but now we've got our clean slate on schedule number 1. We are in Detroit, and now let's see what's available. And see, all right, so just basically 1,100 per trip there. Also have to be careful that they're all for one truck at a time on these contracts, because sometimes you look at the money and it looks very nice, but it's for multiple trucks at a time. All right, 1,200 per trip. That's going to Pittsburgh. That's not bad at all. 1,900. I like that quite a bit, but we got to go down to St. Louis for that. It's quite a lengthy trip. Not necessarily a bad thing, though. But for now, I'm trying to keep this fairly simple. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's do the Pittsburgh thing. It's only a 1-tripper, and we'll reset from there. That means, because it's only a 1-tripper, it means we don't have to worry about a return trip. We'll be able to start fresh in Pittsburgh. Wasn't a whole lot that we could work with there. And, oh, it happened to me again. The time got away from me. I didn't get it done. Okay, luckily, you can see our guy got right back on the exit and went back to Detroit, so we should be fine. It shouldn't end up hurting anything. And now this should conclude his 1 trip. There we go. Yeah, you can see it was delayed a little bit. That's unfortunately just part of the fact that he was already on the road. I do need to look into that and see how I can keep that from happening. All right, so schedule number 1, stop doing that. Have to talk to the game. Unfortunately, it does not listen to me as much as I want it to. All right, so now here we go. We've got 1900 per trip. Very nice. There to Boston. Okay, I can get behind that idea. 1600. Very nice. 1100, 1400 to India, 5 tripper. Now that is very good. Okay, going to Monty. Wow, 2500. Okay, we haven't been to Monty in quite a while, I don't think. Let's go there. Let's go there. That's pretty good. I mean, that's hard to beat. I mean, we're getting 1900. I was excited by that. Let's make sure. Okay, it is for 1 truck, 4 tripper. I like it. Let's take that one. And then let's go over and see if there is a return trip for that. So we're looking for Pittsburgh. And no, nothing whatsoever. New York City is sort of along the way. We might be able to squeeze that in. Let's try it. Let's see what there is, if there is anything that's worth doing. We might be cutting it a little close on our time, but hey, we're about having fun, so let's go ahead and give it a shot. I like this one. This seems to be pretty good. It's a 4 tripper, which would match up pretty good. Savannah, we're not interested in for sure. Okay, yeah, let's go with the 4 tripper. All right, and then let's go, let's see, do I risk having another one in New York going to Pittsburgh? And the reason I say risk is because, remember, you got loading and unloading time to account for on all of these. Let's just look and see if there's anything in New York going to Pittsburgh that is really good. All right, 1500 per trip, not bad. It's also a 4 tripper. Boy, they're really throwing it out there for me. All right, we're going to give it a shot. Let's give it a shot. And this will be an opportunity for us to learn. Did I get too aggressive here? I mean, it's just too perfect with 4 trip, 4 trip, and 4 trip lining up here. So we're going to give it a shot, and hopefully we don't get burned on this. We should make some very nice money along the way here. All right, let's turn, oops. Let's get our truck. All right, so we're lined up on the truck. Let's swap back over to number 2 because I want to see what's going on there. So much going on, it's easy for me to forget exactly what all is happening. All right, so you can see number 2 truck is headed out, and right now he's going from Pittsburgh to Chicago. And it looks like we got 2 more trips each on these contracts, so that's good. We'll be keeping an eye out to make sure that we're meeting our deadlines, particularly on this one. You can see we've got sort of a bit of a convoluted trail here, but it's along the way. All right, there we go. Contract fulfilled. Let's come back out. We've got some new driver applications. Unfortunately, we're not quite ready to pick these guys up for new trucks just yet. Okay, you can see we're about to finish up on the first round. Made 1 trip on the first 2, and we're coming in to Pittsburgh to finish up that one. Now we head back over to our second schedule and see that we've just finished up that one. I'm going to let this one play out. We're going to go from Chicago to Pittsburgh, and then we'll reset from there. Okay, let's go ahead and get the fast forward on. And this will end the first leg. There you go. You see the $2,500 for our first drop off. And then we're off and running for trip number 2 to Monty, and then we're back from Monty to New York, and then back to Pittsburgh. There we go. Now, schedule number 2 is done. Okay, I always like to see it when I see the +2s up there. Reputation is going very nicely. Remember, reputation, the key to the reputation and why we care so much about it is the better our reputation gets, we move through the rankings and we can get better and better deals. If we go from a number 1 to a number 2 ranking, then we can get longer stints. So instead of trying to do 1 and 2 trip deals like we see a lot of times, we want to get these up into 4, 5, and beyond. And that's what leveling up our reputation will do for us. All right, so here we are in Pittsburgh. And let's see what we've got. All right. And by the way, if you're never unsure, or if you're never sure exactly where, why does it keep doing that? Every time I touch anything, it wants to go back to playing the game. All right, stop it. And now we've already lost our ability because this guy is now gone, so I'm going to have to let him go. All right. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to see if there's anything in New York. We're going to pretend that we're starting fresh in New York. So we've got a guy that's idle here, and where is he? Well, there he is. Okay, and he is on his way back to home base, but we're going to try to catch him before he gets there. All right, let's start fresh. New York City. Let's look and see what's available. I really don't like the one trippers. I want to stay away from those. That one's not even very good anyway. 1500, not bad. And Washington, D.C. Okay, Washington, D.C. is not bad. We haven't been there before. So this will give us an opportunity. And if you're wondering how I know that, it's grayed out. All of these others you can see, we can tell, like Minneapolis, we've not been there, but all of these up in the Northeast we've been to, but we haven't been to Indy, we haven't been to Washington, D.C. This will be a great chance for us to go to Washington, D.C., and hopefully we can start fresh from there. So give us a great opportunity to get down there, because we hope pretty soon to be opening up a depot. Not quite as soon as I would like. Okay, why did he not stop there? Oh, good gracious, I did it again. I'm sure you guys were screaming at the screen with since I forgot to drag that. But again, that is just one thing that drives me nuts about this game. There's so many menus. It's so much to keep track of. It is very easy for me personally. Now, maybe it's not for everybody, but it's very easy for me to simply forget that step. Yeah, you can see already, contract is delayed. I know. It's all my fault. All right, so we got down here to Washington, and let's see what we've got. Looks pretty much the same as everything else, but now here is the key. Ultimately, what we want to do is unlock these other companies. Right now, again, we're trying to take it one video at a time and get into a lot of these concepts on their own. But one of the things we're going to do, in fact, we've already seen it in the quest for the game mode, is that it wants us to start opening up some of these companies, and that's where we're going to get some very lucrative offers from them ultimately. So yes, we're definitely going to be doing that. Please stop. Our guy is already leaving. All right, I'm going to try. Let's see. Our guy wants. All right, he hasn't made it. Okay, he hasn't made it out yet. We should be able to catch him pretty easy. Of course, I thought that the first time as well. All right, let's go ahead to DC. And yep, it hurt our reputation enough. I was afraid of that. So not the greatest thing, but now we're going to have to catch him when he goes back to New York. All right, so now he's closer to New York. Let's try to start fresh again, and hopefully this game does not start up until I am ready. Oh, wow, here's an opportunity to go back to home base. So we've got some mail going, 5 trips. All right, I like that quite a bit, 1666, plus a nice completion bonus. Very nice. Ooh, a very nice completion bonus here. Yikes, 4,950 is very good. Still for one truck. Okay, not so good going to Boston, 1,400. And then we go back down to D.C. Okay, what was that one to D.C.? Okay, it's a 2-tripper. All right, I like that. Yeah, let's go down here because we really need to repair what we were trying to get going with our reputation down there. Okay, let's go ahead and I almost forgot it again. There we go. And let's watch and make sure that he does it. There he goes. He's getting loaded up. All right, we're going to be in good shape. And just to make sure, because it's a 2-tripper, I would really like to set things up. No, can't quite do it. All right, I'm going to try to catch him as quickly as I can. All right, did that do it? No, it didn't quite do it. All right, so it's going to have to wait until the end of the contract. All right, well, I was going to try it, but unfortunately, it wasn't going to work. right, let's see what happens here. Again, I'm going to try to... There we go. Please stay on pause. Please. So now it should be opened up. Yeah, there we go. So now we're getting options. And of course, some of these are going to be going to places that we haven't been before and haven't been in a while, if anything. So like Charlotte, going down south. Let's see what we've got going back to New York. There's a 3-tripper. Pittsburgh, not bad, a 2-tripper. Okay, so we're going to have to... I like the 3-tripper because that could really get us some good reputation going forward. All right, a 3-tripper there. And let's take a look just to make sure for one truck. A nice completion bonus. Again, it's per trip is not all that great. But again, this is more... I'm doing this more for reputation so that in the future we can sort of build up some business here. All right, and at the same time, I want to go into New York and see if we got anything going back down to DC. All right, here's a 2-tripper. It's the only thing available. So we'll take it. And we're not going to get too cute and try to pick up any other contracts or anything. All right, so we're getting some contract delays. You can see here on the other side, we got a little bit too... let's go ahead and... let's make sure our guy is actually moving here. Yeah, okay, he's going good. Let's swap back over to number 1. I was worried that I might have gotten a little bit too involved and a little bit too much going on with this, and as it turns out, I did. I got these guys going a little bit too far out of the way, and we're going to end up delaying the contracts, but hey, that's how we learn. That is exactly how we learn. And as long as we don't get anything canceled, I think we're going to be okay. Now, yes, the -1s are horrendous. We don't want that. And I'm going to try to do my best to learn from that in the future, although I will admit freely that I am prone to trying to push the limits a lot. Okay, so now you can see we're down to a level 2 in Pittsburgh. That's not good. And let's move back up here. What are we here? Okay. Yep. So we're down to, we can't even get any jobs there. So we're going to have our guy actually go back. Oh, and we did get one. All right. So what was, let's see, what was that one? That was on to New York City. Okay. That's this one. Okay. So it cost us $7 grand there. All right. So we have to learn our lesson. And there we go. So now he looks like he's going to pick up this very last one down here in New York City. And let's see if he's going to have time before that one gets canceled. So this may be a very expensive lesson. Okay, what do we get? See, this is another thing that gets me. All right, so this is on number 2. So, okay, so that was our second contract for number 2. And what they're letting me know now is, let's see, Washington, D.C. back to New York City. Okay, so let's go ahead and let that one go. Yeah, I could definitely use some help in this game. And again, right now we only have 2 trucks, and there's still a lot going on for me on the screen and trying to figure out who's doing what. And unfortunately, yeah, we don't, special contracts, we don't really have the ability to do those just yet. We don't have anybody available right now. Okay, so now on schedule number 2, clean slate. And I would prefer to continue going New York to DC. So let's see if that's going to be possible. Preferably on a longer term. Well, there's a single trip. That's not good. What about some money on some longer trips? There's a 3-tripper to Boston. Wow, that's not very much. And the completion bonus really doesn't help us out a whole lot there. Yikes, this is not good money. We're going to have to get into some of these other trailers. This is going to drive me crazy with these small amounts that we're making. All right, so let's go New York to Pittsburgh. And let's see if we got Pittsburgh back on a return trip. And, oh, wow, 10 trips. Are you kidding me? Seriously? Wow. I didn't realize we'd leveled up quite that much, but I do like it. It's only 1,400, but look at that, 13,380 for a completion bonus. And it is just 1 truck. All right, I like that one. And we'll deal with, yes, it doesn't line up on the number of trips, but we can always deal with that when the time. All right, let's get this guy rolling. Okay, and let's speed things up a little bit. We move back over to number 1, and yes, he's running behind. Please let him get there before it's canceled. Okay, so we got it done, albeit late. So we learned our lesson, hopefully there. I'm going to try to have learned my lesson anyway. And let's see, let's try to get one more return trip. I know we're running a little bit long on the video. Once again, so many things I want to get done that we just don't have time for. The good news is we're making a little bit of money, and we'll take a look at that hopefully more in the next video. But let's go ahead and see what we've got. I'm trying to keep my eye on the time and make sure that it's not started back on me. That is my biggest enemy. That's my one gripe so far in the game, is that it seems like every time I do something, it starts the fast forward back, and I don't want that. All right, so Chicago, $1,400 per trip, plus a nice $5,200 completion bonus. I like that. And wow, a very nice completion bonus there. Yikes, that is huge. Basically the same per trip. Okay, well, that makes my decision a little bit easier. Okay, let's see if we can get something from Chicago back to Pittsburgh. Hopefully so. Let's see what we get. Come on. Memphis, and nope, nothing. Oh, really? Really? All right, here's the question. Do I try my luck going a little bit out of the way to Detroit? I am inclined to do so because that's just naturally what I do. No, I'm going to not do it this time. We're going to try to get a clean run here. So yes, I'm going to, even though it means empty trailer, please stop doing that. All right, where is our guy? Oh, and now everything's just falling apart on us. Wait, what just happened? Did it seriously just wipe that out on me? Oh, come on. Do better than that. All right, is our guy still here? Yeah, he's still here. All right, there's our nice, very nice trip. Pittsburgh to Chicago. Okay, and we're just going to deal with the empty trailer and drag this down. So my Achilles heel right now seems to be that I forget to drag that truck onto the contract to get things going. That's one thing I've got to work on for sure. All right, so this guy here is getting loaded up, I would assume. And here we see, there he goes. Yeah, he's loaded up and he is off and running. Yeah, if I go regular speed, I mean, this is just going to take forever. That's no good to me. If I go what I'll just call double speed, that's a little bit better. It still takes a very long time. We're going to have to decline this. We don't have any trucks available. But then if I go full fast forward, that is killer whenever the contracts are completed and I do something crazy and start the clock back. Also, the frames per second are driving me crazy in this game. All right, contract fulfilled. Now, where was that? Is that on? I don't know where that was. It says it's on 1. That must have been the most recent one. Okay, so we'll keep going. We'll swap back over to number 2. So this is a nice one, particularly this one. That is going to be a nice completion bonus whenever we get to the end of this. $1,400 per trip. And so what do we have to look forward to as we once again run over on our time? What do we have to look forward to? Well, again, as we get more money, and hopefully as I continue to pick better routes, and we have more opportunities like this where we have return trips that we're getting paid for, as well as the main contract. So we get more money, and it looks like the game is going to force us to expand back up here at our home base. And so then we'll be running more trucks out of there. And then ultimately, we're going to expand out in either probably Boston or DC. although those definitely aren't the only options. And then we'll have even more trucks. And then, of course, on top of that, we've got different trailers that I want to unlock and get the rights to, and all of the necessary paperwork done for that, which cost 100 grand a piece. Yeah, those are very expensive. And then we'll be able to run like some, for example, some reefer trailer loads, and which will pay even more money to us per trip. And so we've got a lot of things going on, and we are literally just scratching the surface, even though we're a few videos in at this point. So there's a lot going on. We're not going to run out of anything to do for a very long time. So thank you very much for joining me, and stay tuned for more of our playthrough and our Let's Play series of TransRoad USA.